Hey guys, it's Bazwin again. Today I want to discuss very quickly this letter from Andy and also talk on the topic of the new hotfix that was released last night slash this morning. So, hello Zenithians. Yesterday we rolled out a new patch that addressed many of the bugs and issues that we had been meaning to fix since launch day. We added a ton of really cool features, including dozens of new quests, and improved tutorial flow for newbies that will make it easier for them to learn the game's mechanics and provide a more satisfying and less grindy experience to get to level 40. Makes sense. Overall, the reception to the new changes has been extremely positive. Looking at the data, people who are playing, etc., it's been really well received. Players have also really been enjoying the new overworld dungeon, which, based on the tone of this, I guess there was only the one dungeon in Queen's Path. And the dozens of new item modifiers available on armor and weapons. Still have yet to dive into those, but moving on. However, there are a few somewhat controversial changes, which I'm going to do my best here to explain the reasoning behind. And this is where it gets a little somber. Endgame item grind legendaries removed from rotation and replaced with epic purple gear. What exactly changed? Legendary armor sets in the Nexus District synthesis stations were replaced with purple gear, and two new endgame materials were introduced. These materials are needed to synthesize the new armor sets. So we talked about that already. Legendary gear was nerfed, and the epic armor, as a result, is now the most powerful armor in the game. Which, that seems questionable in decision making, but okay. Why did we change this? Quite honestly, the intent was always to have a tier of epic gear before legendaries were obtainable. And the gear we released today was the original intent and balance we wanted to achieve before the launch. The problem is that we actually had to stop adding features several weeks before launch as an external constraint. So much of the tweaks on our development build couldn't make it in. So basically, it went off a little bit half-cocked because they were in a rush to get it out. With legendaries, the goal was to introduce a way to grind for epic gear that involves challenging team content and introduce new modifiers that are actually interesting. Current legendary armor does not have any interesting effects or modifiers or looks, so it doesn't live up to what we want legendary armor to feel like. Our goal is to reintroduce legendary armor at a later date with cool new effects, art, and modifiers so that they feel truly powerful and one of a kind. Now, I can completely get behind this because I thought the legendary armor as it was pretty plain. And the stats on it were nothing special. It was basically craftable 40 epic armor with an orange tag. However, that doesn't diminish the fact that people put forth the effort to grind the materials for those crafts, and so the fact that they're not having those, well, let's continue on. We also want legendary armor to be truly difficult to obtain. Prior to the patch, armor was obtainable by just grinding public events forever, but wasn't really a challenge to get. Just took time. Importantly, we did not remove this armor to deal with duping or cheating issues, and in fact, the legendary armor that people obtained before the patch is now less powerful than the epic armor you can get from the synthesis. So the new gear that you can craft is actually stronger, but that doesn't make it any easier to attain at level 40. However, the problem, many of you had spent countless hours grinding for the legendary armor only to have it taken away last second without warning. We didn't respect the grind, and for that, we are sorry. Many of you had been waiting days to get this armor, and although we believe the balance decisions were right, we shouldn't have just taken it away without providing anything in return. I think that's something everybody can agree with. We're instituting a new set of policies and procedures so this doesn't happen again. That's all fine and dandy, but the deed is done. So let's move on. Firstly, we will do our best not to sunset armor like this. When we do, we'll try to communicate changes beforehand. Secondly, we're going to try to give people back an opportunity to use those materials that you've grinded for useful upgrades, and so that it doesn't feel like a waste of your time. So they're comparing it to the like poetic tombstone grind for Final Fantasy. So in the future, you should get the opportunity to utilize those same mats for things that will also benefit you. Maybe not the same way that the legendaries did, but it'll still get used. Then they also talked about the Arboretu Difficulty. They gave him endgame loot and a unique material that only he drops. They also made him more difficult because apparently, and contrary to what so many people were saying, there were groups of 2 or 3 people killing the world boss after launch. And so they want him to be on comparison with, again, comparing to Final Fantasy, Extreme Trial or Savage Raid type content. A few glitches that were noticeable before the patch got fixed. Or correction, a few that were noticeable after the patch got fixed. To note specifically, the fact that his conal AoE wasn't showing the proper place where it was going to drop. So now you can actually see where he's going to drop his AoE and plan accordingly. Yeah, basically they're just trying to, because Arboretu is the first real boss, they're trying to make it as satisfying of a fight for this level of content right now. So that way it is an actual challenge and a coordinated effort as opposed to just a slog. Which I can respect that. The patch communication. So servers would randomly crash and boot people out. Yeah, that's definitely been a thing. I still haven't looked at my Blade Master, but users were permanently logged into the game. Hundreds to thousands of players were unable to play unless manually logged out. So this is apparently what they meant by that log out issue. People were losing half of their inventory items. That's concerning, but thankfully I never witnessed that. Enhancement gear would frequently disappear. This has been an issue. And a myriad of other critical issues. So they wanted to get that patch out that covered all of this. And so they kind of rushed it rather than giving people the knowledge of, hey, we're going to also be getting rid of those legendary items that we never really intended to be in there in the first place, or at least not in their form. So they got that out so that way the overall stability of the game would be better, but basically they're going to detail this in their post-mortem section, and the future release notes are going to be about a week or so before the patch is out, as opposed to, hey, we put out a patch, here's what happened. Shard consolidation, they removed a bunch of shards because since launch, the overall day-to-day peak concurrency is down, so it's not necessary for there to be so many of them. And they're going to continue to fine-tune that as the weeks go on. But right now they don't need, 100 different shards up and available. So they're going to tune that down so that way they have, A, more budget to make the rest of the game better, and B, it's less management for their mods and GMs. Additionally, for those people who are in an issue to where they can't find the friends that they've played with, if you are playing with someone, I recommend that if you enjoy each other's company, regardless of whether or not they're planning to remove servers or not, get in the official Discord and add each other as Discord friends. Most people who play the game have Discord and are in the official Discord. Do yourself a favor, and if you enjoy playing with somebody, just send them a message on Discord. Find them in the chat in the official Discord and just be like, hey, yo, I had fun today. Good looks. Level scaling. Okay, so here's the biggest part of this whole thing for me, because while I sympathize greatly with everybody who was farming, because I did some farming too for the legendary items, the biggest thing that changed with that patch for me was the level scaling. Some of you have remarked that the game has gotten 2 times harder since the patch. That's because we fixed an issue with level scaling that previously did not take equipment into consideration. In essence, level scaling was never actually working properly before, and the system is now functioning as intended. This means that the game is much harder for high-level players, even at earlier zones, which means that the challenge is preserved and players can continue to enjoy every area of the game. We did this fix because previously higher level people would come into lower level zones and completely clobber all the content intended for lower level players. However, we understand that for many of you the difficulty is now much too high. We also understand that you want to feel powerful at lower level zones. So we're going to increase the level scale by a few levels so that higher level players will always have an advantage at lower level zones. And this makes perfect sense. That's how it is in most games. Even Final Fantasy does that. So if you go into a dungeon that is a level 50 dungeon, in almost all cases, they will level sync you to 52, 53, 54. They won't put you at that minimum level. And so I'm glad they're taking that extra step, because if you're going to help out a friend or something, or if you just have to go on a grind for whatever reason, resources, experience, whatever, you don't want to go back to a zone and just, I have to do this all over again with the same level of struggle as before. And especially for people who aren't tank mage, and I'm just going to keep harping on this, people who aren't tank mage suffer more from this than tank mages, because tank mages excel at killing multiple things above their level, whereas in all the other class role combos are typically better suited for solo target damage, and they're going to be hit hardest by this. So I do like that they've increased that level cap. I think it'll give people a little bit more of a leg up moving forward, and we'll see about that when we get in the game later today. Key learnings: it's been a very difficult day. We've lost countless hours of sleep, but we've learned a lot, and we think this will make the game way better and your experience much more fun in the future. Specifically, respect the grind, so they're going to make it their effort not to bamboozle anyone going forward. We've learned that we need to hire more people to keep up a live service game. We always knew this to an extent, but the urgency didn't become clear until yesterday. Which, honestly, I'm surprised they haven't been on a hiring spree recently, but we need to reorient the team and slow down. Our focus in the coming month will not be on new features, but instead stability, polish, and bug fixing, which I am so behind. There is so many little niche things that are just stacking up over time and becoming a critical issue, and I'm glad they're finally reorienting themselves to making it fully playable rather than just jumping on the how can we just throw new content out there. Now, I'm not saying they should completely shift away, but like 10% of their effort should be on new content. 90% of their effort should be on finishing the polish. Process improvements, things they're going to do internally. They're going to set up a public test realm server where any user can opt in to the latest design changes and test and give feedback on them. This is going to be like old school World of Warcraft. So this will be interesting, because if people are looking to see where Cyber Ninja or other things are at, the public test realm server will be the place to go and test out Cyber Ninja or housing or whatever the new features that they're working on are. So I'm very interested to see the public test realm server live. I think they're probably going to have to set up some kind of queue for that, because a lot of people are going to want to play with it. They're going to take detailed patch notes during the development process so they have the complete picture of every update going in. Again, that's just common sense stuff for a game dev. Hiring more QA folks to help us full time. Yeah. Definitely need more people. You can't always run it with just two people, or two dozen people. And so it only makes sense that they'll be hiring. So if you have experience and are looking to work in this particular game, you should probably be looking on their website for hiring notices coming out. As mentioned above, realign from new features to addressing user and bug concerns so we can get Zenith more polished and fun. Yeah. It's pretty much the sum and total of it. The one thing I will say here is, guys, as always, be a little understanding, because it is a small team of people, and they are trying. They are very much so trying, and not every person gets everything right every day. So if you see something that's not right, take things with a grain of salt, give them the feedback, let them have the time to fix it, fix themselves, fix the game, and fix their setup. Because if you come at them hostile and if you come at them disrespectful and if you start making their lives harder, it doesn't help the problem. It actually hurts it because not only are you diminishing their will to get back in there and make their game the greatest, you're also taking away from their time and taking away from their resources. So, yes, if you have problems, make sure you're getting it the light that it needs. Put in the trouble ticket. Make sure you're posting in the support chat. Make sure you're, whatever you need to do. But don't be hostile with it. Take it with a grain of salt. Be patient. They are going to be hiring more people, so it should start to increase in the amount of turnover that they get with each of these issues. And it should be a much better game going forward. So, to everybody who is out here watching, thank you. To everybody watching in the future, thank you. And I will see you in the game in probably about an hour, where I'll be checking out to see just how difficult the content is now with the increased level scaling. So, for now, guys, like if you liked it, subscribe if you're not already, please. And I'll catch you guys later. Yeah, I'll talk to you more in the next stream in an hour. Bye.